Okay. So this is the hands-on portion. So I'm going to go ahead and open Terra, and I'm going to go to that workflow that we're using. And I've already pointed out the versions and all of this information, so we'll go ahead and continue. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that these options are set up correctly. So for run workflows, we want to select run workflows with inputs defined by data table. This is the default, so that's good. Then we want to select entity type sample. So this is something you're going to need to change. It says for me program, I'm going to click sample. You'll see here that it pre-populated all of this information. I'm going to come back to that in a second. We're going to use call caching, and we are not going to use delete intermediate outputs. So we're going to click save. Okay, so everybody good to go with run workflows, root entity type sample, leave call caching checked. We won't check delete intermediate outputs. Any questions?
No, those were the only two changes, right? Use call caching and delete.
Yes. Okay, so now we're going to fill in the empty attributes that you see here because we didn't import that JSON, so we're going to fix this. So we're going to walk through, I'm going to type everything in with you. So we're going to use the this dot concept that we talked about earlier. And we're basically going to go through it and practice that. So we're going to use this dot and choose the option for from the drop-down menu. We're going to use workspace dot to select workspace level data from the workspace level table. And when all of the attributes are filled in, all of these yellow markers will go away and we can click save. So if the variable doesn't, that you expect doesn't show up, make sure that you've selected the right entity table. Again, we're using sample here. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that together. So you might be wondering, okay, where is this stuff? I'm going to type in workspace first. So I think our dbsnp VCF is there, and it is. So I'm going to select that. I'm going to click workspace, dbsnp VCF index. I see that there. The Docker image is something we usually have as a workspace level attribute. So I'm going to type that and see that there. Okay. For the input files, does anybody know if I should select workspace or this dot for the input files? All right.
With this dot, no?
Yes, that's right. Because that's where our CRAM files are located. So type this dot. Got our CRAM path for file there. Here we've got a bunch of references. Where would the references be found? They would be found at workspace dot, because usually we want our references to be there. So I'm going to go ahead and select that. Please go ahead and type along with me to fill this in.
Can you slow down a bit? I'm not.
Yes, absolutely. I will hold when I'm done typing to give everybody more time. I'm basically typing the exact names here and just selecting those from the drop down. Give everybody 2 minutes to finish typing.
This is where if you had a JSON that was all set up to share, it would be nice because you wouldn't be typing in. But we wanted everyone to see how the relationship between the attributes and where it is, rather than just uploading something and not having to think about it.
Do you happen to have an example of how would that JSON look like? Or
so
Yeah.
once you fill it all in, you can actually download it yourself, and you can see exactly what it is, and you could share that with. You see what you see it?
Yeah, I see it. It's the download JSON.
Right.
I'm gonna click save. I'm not gonna download it so everybody can see what it should look like. But yeah, if you download it, I'll download it in a second so people can see.
And when you're done configuring the inputs, don't forget to do the outputs as well, because if you don't, all the outputs will just be in your Google bucket with a non-human readable label.
Yeah, so if you're tempted to hit run analysis, don't do that quite yet. We're not done yet with configuring.
My orange exclamation marks are not disappearing. Why could that be the case? Because I see in your case they disappear.
I clicked save and that made them disappear. The save button is not here right now because I already clicked it. Do you have the save button clicked?
Oh yeah, I've saved and then they've disappeared. It's okay.
Yes, that should be good.
But from the cry file, I don't know why it's not auto-completing when I say this to give the path. It only auto-completes for workspace as the prefix, but not when I have this as the prefix.
Interesting. So you said that you're typing workspace dot and the cray path shows up?
No, I type workspace, then it gives me the options, which is correct for, let's say, the SNP VCF file. But for the cry, the cram, the ones that have a prefix of this, it doesn't autocomplete.
What does your root entity type say?
Root entity. Hold on a second.
Yeah, it should be above the table.
Actually, I think there's a problem with it.
Okay. Yeah, it should be select root entity type sample.
Apparently, it doesn't show that.
Okay.
I can share screen if you need to see. It doesn't show that entity.
Did you clone the Anvil Open Access workspace?
Sorry, say that again.
Did you clone the workspace called
Yes,
Anvil
I did.
Open Access? Okay, interesting.
Go over, if you hop over to your data tab, is the samples table not in there?
I have sample in my data, in the tab that says data. It has the sample
So
with 22,504.
Yeah.
Maybe share your screen. Maybe this could be a good a learning opportunity. So let me stop sharing for a second, and then you can share your screen.
All right, thanks. Sure. Can you see it?
Yes.
Okay, so in data, I can find everything here. I imported the workflow.
Yes.
This. And the sample data, the part where you select sample disappears. I don't know why.
Yeah, so you need to click the Run Workflows with Inputs Defined by Data Table underneath the bullet or the radio button underneath the one that you have selected.
I select the second one.
Yes, because this says
okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right.
There you go.
Let me end the screen sharing so that you can go on.
Okay. So now that this dot should work for you.
I have a question. Should we only fill in the required paths and not the optional ones?
That is correct. We will not fill in the optional ones today. So the optional ones are shown with the italics here. And you'll see obviously it says optional. We're not going to use any of those for running this workflow. And I can actually click hide if I don't want to see them. Does anyone else have any questions before we move on? Okay. So I'll keep moving.
Tiffany, just one clarification.
Sure.
I just uploaded the files, like I selected the attributes as you showed, and it is still showing me the exclamatory marks. But in your screen, it is not there. So is it still, you have to run something else to remove that exclamatory marks? Or? Yeah,
there's a save button. There should be a save button. So if I actually click this, you see how it pops back up?
Okay.
So.
Yeah, thanks. It's working. Yes.
It's working? Okay, good.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
And Tiffany, did you do your outputs?
I'm doing that next.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Yeah.
My bad.
No problem. No problem. I just wanted to give people a little more time. So I'll go ahead and keep moving. So there for outputs, I'm going to click outputs. And you'll see there are two outputs listed here. And so for this, I'm going to type this dot. And there actually, I believe, is a, oh no, okay. So what I'm going to do is I can name this column anything I want, and any of these outputs are going to go back to that sample table. So I'm going to select this dot, and I'm going to type in just the same name as the variable. Aligner output cray. You can type whatever you want here. And when you're done, you can click save. And we talked about that JSON download. So this is an example of what it looks like. Here, it's kind of hard to see, but that's the format. Okay, so before you click the Run Analysis button, we don't want to run the analysis on 2,504 samples. For this workshop, we only want to run it on maybe a few. So I'm going to select Data. I'm going to click that button. And I'm going to click Choose Specific Rows to Process. Okay, and I'm just going to select one. I can select two if I want to, three. Let's see if I can. There we go. So for fun, I'll select two. And then I'll click OK. So now you see it shows up the correct number of samples that I want to run on. Okay. Yeah, feel free to run it on 1, 2, 3, whatever. Just not 2,504 samples, please. we'll just make sure that we have everything looking good.
Can you repeat where you found the data? Is it upside in the data?
Yeah, so what this is actually doing is this is showing me the sample table. Since I selected a sample root entity type, it's pulling up that sample table for me, and I can select, you know, whichever samples that I want to run on. Do you have the same up on your screen?
Now that I know where to look at, I found it.
Okay, great. Okay, do we have any other questions? Do people need more time?
You're getting really close.
I know, I'm cutting into everybody's break. I'm sorry about that. So, okay, I'll move forward. I'm gonna click Run Analysis now. It tells me which version of our execution engine in Terra it's running on, and it tells me how many analysis it's going on, so 2 samples. So I'm just gonna click Launch. Okay, and this takes me now to the job history section where I can see that my 2 jobs are queued. Okay. Let's see if there's anything else. Also, this information is in the slides. If you need to refer back to it, what we did. Okay, so we're now actively running our jobs, and that concludes this portion. So you just learned how to configure and run a workflow. We talked about best practices for configuring the workflows and how to spend less when you're doing that. The spending less typically happens within the WDL itself. And when you're defining the runtime section of the WDL itself. So yeah, we ran the workflow you downloaded from Dockstore on some sample data. Now we're going to do a break, and if you have any questions or need some help troubleshooting, then we'll do that. There's also an optional treasure hunt in Dockstore that you can do during the break if you've already launched your analysis. Basically, the prompt I'll say is try to go inside of Dockstore and try to find the GTK best practices in Dockstore. Here are instructions on how to do it. But basically, if you want to challenge yourself and do a little hunting, you can go into Dockstore, try to find the GTK best practices workflows. They're, a hint is they're organized as a collection of workflows to make it easy to find them. And there's another workflow in the slides that you can try to find too by searching around. So I will end now. Thank you for your time. Any questions?
So Tiffany, one naive question, Tiffany. In the input of this workflow, in the beginning, you selected that input like select in the step 1, select root entity type. There are multiple options, and the rationale behind selecting sample. Can you please explain once again why we are selecting sample?
Sure. Yeah, so this is just how we set up the workspace and the specific sample data table. I know that the CRAM files are there in the sample table, and I want to run this workflow on the CRAM files, so that's why I selected the sample table. If you had a different name for the table that you set up, say you set it up as, I don't know, sample 1, maybe you named the table that, and you had the inputs that are in that table, then you would select that table. So it's just about where the inputs are living.
Okay.
That makes sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay.
Right.